From Careco TV, one of the longest running outdoor programs on television today. Exploring the country and the coast in search of adventures. From the mountains of the great Northwest to the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. This is Americana Outdoors, presented by Garmin. This week on Americana Outdoors, we're on the water in Kentucky with Jeff Reynolds and Terry McWilliams. Terry's best known as the pioneer of the Stupid Tube. He's here today to introduce Jeff to a new rigging style and let him in on the secret to his success, exclusively using the Stupid Tube made by Secret Lures.
The Stupid Tube itself, I mean, it's kind of been my go-to. You know, to me, a Stupid Tube is what I'm throwing right now, which is a 3.7, 3 7/10 inches long.
Yep.
And I throw it on usually on a 4/0 hook, and usually use an 1/8, 3/16. I've been playing a little bit with it with a 1/4, but usually I save the 1/4 for the big dummy tubes. And everything I've done from 2000 up to probably 2015 has been on a 3.7 with either a 3/0 or 4/0, 1/8, and 3/16. And sometimes they eat when you don't even realize it.
Oh, you got a good one?
And that's going to get me to another part of the Stupid Tube, the way to fish it. You can't fish it wrong, you can't fish it too slow.
More or less, you just got to fish it, right?
Yeah. You're trying to represent a crawdad, unless you're throwing a white one, you're trying to represent a shad.
Yep. Good fish.
As you can see, it sticks them pretty good.
Sticks them good. And now a lot of that's the hook too, because I mean, I've thrown a tube a lot, and I mean, hooks definitely make a difference.
The custom hand-dipped Stupid Tube comes in 3 sizes. The original 3.7 Stupid Tube, the 4.2 Flippin' Stupid Tube, and the 4.5 Big Dummy. The Stupid Tube jig head features an extra wide gap hook and is designed in conjunction with the 3.7 Stupid Tube. The HD Stupid Tube jig head is designed specifically for the 4.2 Flippin' Stupid Tube and the 4.5 Big Dummy. This jig head boasts a heavy gauge extra wide mustad gap hook with more length than the standard version.
I guided for 13 years after I retired, and I guided on a river system that was full smallmouth, nothing big, but if I had one guy catching fish and somebody else wasn't, my saying was quit reeling and start feeling, because I think if anything you can do with a tube is overwork it.
Yep.
Reel it, overwork it. If you're trying to imitate a shad, yeah, you got to put a little more action into it, but the 3.7 Green Pumpkin Stupid Tube is pretty hard to beat and slow works.
There's one.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Mean ones back here anyway.
They are. Heck yeah.
Now, was you working it?
Not very much. I was kind of doing what you was talking about. I
Slow
slowed it down because I had been working it a bunch.
Right, I know you've been working it.
I've been swimming it some and just working it pretty fast. And that time, just like you were talking about, slowed it down and just let the bait do the work. But that, like I told you before we started, you know, I've flipped the tube a lot just because where I live, not that many people throw a tube anymore.
Right.
They used to, but
Right.
they don't anymore. I'm thinking, well, it's just something different. Now, I'm so excited of all the different ways that I've learned to fish it now. You know, coming out with a bigger head to fish it deeper on ledges, you know, in 15, 20,
Right.
30 foot of water. And even flipping it like that right there, I mean, flip it at a stump, let it sit there, and fish takes off with it. So there's a lot of ways to fish them. Just don't overfish them, just like you said. I mean, best statements. Terry, you've thrown this Stupid Tube a lot. I mean, what's some of the ways you rig it?
I go up about 1/2 inch from the head, pull it out.
Right.
And all I do is pull it, The lead starts to come out, but don't pull the lead out.
Yeah.
And what I do is I turn it over this way, and I turn my head over.
Yep.
Once you turn your head over, the hook tells you what it wants to go in at.
Yep.
But you want to be sure it's going in straight. And then what I do is I want it to go straight through. So what I do is I kink the tube. That way it lays on there pretty much weedless like that. And
Right.
if you want it real weedless, you slide her
Skin hook
forward, skin hook it back. And depending on how heavy it covers, how deep you skin hook it. Last thing I do is poke the eyeball out because I want it straight.
There's one.
We fishing.
Aha.
That's all. You just need a little pressure, don't you?
I just need a little pressure.
You work a lot better under pressure. I can see that right now.
Hit it on the fall. I mean, when it hit
Susan.
the water, it didn't fall a foot. No line jump. He
Hooks
wasn't
and-
going
hooks
nowhere.
and
He was
going,
hooked
yeah.
good. Little healthy fish. That's fun, ain't it?
Yeah. Just a
Stupid
little
tube
pressure.
strikes again.
Americana Outdoors will be right back after these short messages. We know if you found one crappie, you may have found 1,000. We know the joy of getting your boots back in the mud. We know the journey can be more rewarding than the destination. We know the great outdoors. We love the great outdoors. Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Stop by today for huge savings on the gear you need and the brands you trust. Plus free 2-day shipping at BassPro.com and Cabela's.com.
You sons of fishes. Ain't enough fish on this lake for 2 clubs.
Really? Well, we see plenty of fish live with Panoptics.
Yep. Dang, we should get Panoptics. Maybe we'll just take yours.
What's going on here? You boys have license?
Yes, sir. Nope.
There he is.
Oh, I got it.
Americana Outdoors, presented by Garmin, is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. Garmin, fight your fish, not your fish finder. Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Welcome back to Americana Outdoors. Well, Jeff and Terry have made their way over to an area of the lake with heavy cover. Let's see how the stupid tube will hold up under this shift in conditions.
Yeah, that's a better one.
He ate it.
Yeah, he did. Now he can give up. Now. Tell you what, getting them suckers hooked good. A little better one. Pretty close to them other ones. Man, that's fun.
Good solid fish. You know.
Yep. You know, that's the thing about fishing. You never know what they're gonna be on or how you're
Right.
gonna catch them. And we've been flipping these stumps that
Very
look good.
Very
Pull
nice.
right over here these lily pads and can't catch one right when we get here. But I mean, that makes sense. There's shade here. But one thing I've noticed today, a lot of these fish have been suspended.
Bended, yeah,
The
they're not.
bites that I've had, even flipping at stuff, it's as soon as it hits the water and goes down a foot, they hit it. And that one, I was jerking the tube right underneath them pads. And they come right out of there and smoked it.
Yeah.
That's fun when
The
you can
one
watch
I
them
lost
come
a
eat
while
it.
ago, the same thing. He come out from
Yep.
up. He come out. He can come from bottom up. He come straight out.
There's one. May be the deal, they just moved out here a little deeper. Got in the shade of these pads. Look good again. Not a bad fish.
Yeah, solid.
A lot of fun. There again, I mean, that's just the versatility of this tube. Jerking it around underneath these pads in 3 or 4 foot of water and flipping it on the stumps back there, flipping it in grass patches. You can do a little bit of everything with it. There's one.
3-pounder.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, every bit of 3.5. Yep, 3.5. That's a good one. That's a good one. It's a good 3.5. 3.25.
Let's see here. I say 3.2. What do you say?
Yeah, not quite 3.2. 3. Yeah, close.
3.1.
Yeah, 3.1. Between 3.1, 3.2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Majority rules right there.
There you go.
Another great tool for anglers that Secret Lures has recently developed is their classic Stupid Tube Kit.
This kit has everything you need to fish your local pond, wade your local creeks, or even take you to the Bassmaster Classic.
This kit includes 3 of their most popular colors of Stupid Tubes, along with jig heads in 4/0 3/16 and 4/0 8-ounce sizes. They also threw in rigging instructions and a bonus decal.
Stupid Tubes brought a lot of money into my pocket, opened my eyes, and allowed me to compete all over the country.
I made the Indiana Bass Nation State team 2 years in a row off of the Stupid Tube.
So whether you're competing in tournaments or just enjoying a relaxing weekend on the water,
My confidence in the Stupid Tube comes from the sheer number of bites that you get with it.
this kit is all you need to guarantee reeling in lots of fish into your boat.
I can fish this in 15 to 20, and I can fish it in dirt. It doesn't matter, it's going to get bit.
For more information on the classic Stupid Tube Kit, visit secretlures.com. That wraps up a relaxing day of fishing and learning all about the Secret Lures Stupid Tube with Terry and Jeff. When we return, we're heading over to Fayette County Reservoir with Mike McClelland for a rundown of tips and tricks he has when it comes to crankbait fishing. Stay tuned.
Groundbreaking designs, unsurpassed quality, and unshakable confidence. Welcome to the Ranger Z500 and Z100 series. Leading the industry for over 50 years, these rigs are custom crafted and loaded with more features and advantages to deliver the ultimate ownership experience. The legendary Ranger Z series. Unleash next level performance.
Yamaha Outboards. Reliability starts here.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO. Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
Probably one of the #1 questions I get, what line do I use?
That's a big debate. On every tour out there, everybody's debating which line.
I choose the simple side. My choice of line is Sunline. One of my favorite lines to use is Sunline.
How all can you use it? Anywhere you want to. Anywhere there's water and bass, it's good. Walleye, catfish, trout, speckled trout, sharks.
There we go.
I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly, it's the best in the market.
Americana Outdoors, presented by Garmin, is brought to you by Yamaha Marine. Reliability starts here. Spro, Sports Professionals. Sawyer Products. Sawyer, we keep you outdoors. Sunline, the strength to guarantee your confidence. Here at Fayette County Reservoir, we have Mike McClelland on the water, answering some of the most common questions he hears when it comes to crankbait fishing.
One thing about it, time of year isn't that big of a deal when it comes to crankbait fishing. Almost every month of the year, somewhere in the United States, you're going to be able to catch fish on crankbaits. It's all a matter of the action you choose, how deep the fish are, what you want to be looking for when you're cranking. So, we're here in Central Texas right now, going to get out and play around with 2 or 3 different crankbaits today. Some of these fish could have actually spawned. Some of them, more of them are probably pre-spawn, but it's a perfect time of the year for a crankbait. There's no denying that. One of the biggest things that you've got to do when you're throwing a crankbait is figure out, for the style of crankbait you're throwing, what the best way to retrieve that bait's going to be. Sometimes a faster retrieve will keep it, bouncing off the top of the rocks, and then there's other times that you may need to slow that retrieve down to just kind of keep that bait hovering over the rock. There's one right there. See how that fish bit right when I sped it up? That's the whole thing, is you've got to let the fish tell you what they want. I'd been winding that bait fairly slow, and about the time I got it to the boat, I sped it up just a little bit, thinking my cast was over, and that's when he got it. Pretty nice little fish. He doesn't have the bait very good, but a pretty nice one. Not bad at all. Little Spro Rock Crawler 50 got it done. That's the Missouri craw color, and you know, it's just one of those deals. You've got to be aware of what's going on when you're throwing a crankbait. So many people make that mistake of just chunking it out, winding it back to the boat, and never putting any action or any variance in their retrieve. Get another one. Whenever I'm throwing a crankbait, probably 80% of the time, maybe even 90% of the time, I'm gonna be throwing it on Sunline Crank FC. You know, there's those certain situations where you may throw monofilament. Some guys may even throw braid occasionally, but if you're one of those guys that wants to throw braid, I would definitely recommend going from like an SX braid to a Crank FC to give yourself a little bit more stretch. That's the biggest thing you want to do when you're throwing a crankbait, is you want line that has some stretch in it. And when you tie a crankbait directly to braid, it is so, you know, it just doesn't have any stretch, and it doesn't give those fish that ability to suck the bait in like they need to suck it in. You know, one of the questions I get asked tons throughout the course of the year, you know, whether I'm at a lake fishing or I'm doing seminars, is how do you determine what color you're gonna throw? And I mean, it doesn't just pertain to plastics or crankbaits, it's across the board. But one of the biggest things that I'm gonna do as an angler is first I'm gonna try to analyze in my mind, what are the fish predominantly feeding on? I mean, that's gonna be the #1 key thing for me when I start dictating color. If I truly feel like the fish are feeding on crawfish and brim, I wanna throw colors that resemble crawfish and brim. You know, and then there's gonna be days that you break down those different colors based upon the conditions of the day. But then there are those situations where you have to consider, what do the crawfish look like? You know, anytime you go to Texas, you better be throwing something red. The main reason for that is early in the spring, the crawfish in Texas are red, and that's the reason fish want to eat that color. But when you go to other lakes, you know, a Table Rock, a Bull Shoals, there's certain times of the year where our crawfish get a lot of purple. They've got browns and they've got grays in them. And you want to match the hatch of that bait as well as you can to the body of water you're fishing. There's one right there, that's a good one. You know, one of the biggest things about a crankbait fish is making sure that you don't put too much pressure on them. I mean, I can see that fish isn't hooked very good. I mean, I'm gonna run a fairly light drag all the time when I'm fighting a fish on a crankbait, even to the point where if that fish wants to run, I can just pull line a little bit. You can see right now I'm just feeding that fish some line. Generally, if you don't rush a fish on a crankbait, you're not gonna lose them very often. But when you let them jump, that's usually when they get you. I mean, that fish is barely hooked. It's a good one though. Stay down, stay down. I think I got another hook in him then. Now that isn't a giant, but that is a Texas bass. Remember I talked about earlier throwing that red in Texas early in the spring? Caught that one on red craw. Man, I love to catch them on a rock crawler.
When we come back, Mike finds a sweet spot in the water and goes on a fish catch and tear. Stay tuned.
When you spray on a layer of Sawyer's permethrin insect repellent, you've just sprayed on adventure. Sawyer, we keep you outdoors.
You know that guy that's always bringing in big ones from offshore? He's got secret lures. That guy that can pull out his spinning rod and start catching them when you can't buy a bite. He's got secret lures. What about that guy that can follow you down the bank and catch what you left behind? He's got secret lures.
Oh, yeah, good one.
If you're ready to be that guy, get your secret lures today at secretlures.com. Americana Outdoors, presented by Garmin, is brought to you by Secret Lures. The secret is out. Angle, the original high-performance cooler. Power Pole, total boat control.
There's one. You know, another real key to fishing a crankbait this time of the year is the, not just how you fight a fish, but the actual action of your rod. I mean, when you look at the rod that I'm using right now, I mean, it's got a lot of flex, a lot of bend in it. And you know, anytime the water temperature is below, I'm gonna say like 65 or 70 degrees, I'm gonna be throwing a relatively slow gear ratio reel. I mean, I'm throwing right now a 6-3 to 1. There's times that even a 5 to 1 gear ratio reel is a good way to go. Caught that one on a little RK50. I just keep mixing it up. You know, I feel like that red color or orange color is key, but you know, it's all about speed. It's about where you throw the bait, what depth you're throwing it at, and you can catch a ton of fish on a crankbait. You know, probably the biggest thing about throwing a crankbait is the fact that you can catch fish literally from, you know, 0 to 20, 25 foot of water even now with all of the different variations of crankbaits we've got. I mean, the biggest thing you as an angler have got to do is make sure you're throwing the right crankbait for the right situation. I mean, when you're talking about catching them in 0 to 3 foot of water, you're going to be throwing a square bill of some kind. If you're talking about catching them in that mid-depth range, you've got to be throwing a bait that dives at that depth range. And when you get out to that, you know, ultra deep stuff, I mean, a bait like the Little John DD, the deepest diving DD, and now he's even got a deeper diving DD that, you know, will get 20, 22 foot deep. You know, you start talking about long line and guys catch fish on crankbaits 25 and 30 foot deep. So a crankbait will catch them at about any depth if you can get the bait to where the fish are living. You know, there's a lot of things when you look at what all these electronics will do today that you just kind of, there's a fish right there. You kind of take it for granted. I mean, they're so good now that there's not a ton of stuff that you have to do. But there's one thing when it comes to setting up my sonar that I still want to do, and that is I typically always want to run my gain in manual. It's just one of those things that to me makes a huge difference. Little fish interrupted our little discussion about electronics, didn't he? Ate that little rock crawler 50 pretty dadgum good. Another nice one. So getting back to the electronics, I mean, I want to run it in manual, and the other thing I always want to do is I want to have my A-scope on. When you look at this unit right here, anything that you're seeing between this line and the beginning of the history is actually there. That is live sonar. Everything from here over is memory. So I always want my live scope or my A-scope running, and I always want to make sure I'm running my gain in manual. The reason I do that is when you get around other boats, your unit will actually try to start adjusting itself down automatically because of the interference. If I'm running mine in manual, I know I'm going to see every target that I want to see in the water. Another one right there. I mean, they have decided to eat. Front starting to come in. They have decided to eat. Hear that drag slipping? It's all about not putting too much pressure on them. You know, people look at that different. Some people say you want to just wind them to the boat as fast as you can, but I've always looked at it, the more time you take with them, don't get in a hurry, you're going to catch 9 out of 10 of them. It's a nice one. Even when they do just barely get it. You have the right reel, the right rod, the right equipment, you're going to put them in the live well. That is just a blast catching them on that bait. I'm going to tell you straight up, I thought the RK55 original couldn't be outdone, but I've about decided this little 50 is even better.
Crankbaits have always been a favorite among many pro anglers, and when you follow these tips and tricks that Mike McClellan has shared with us today, you'll reel in a ton of fish into your boat and see why they're the personal favorite of many. Hey, thank you for watching, and join us next week on a new episode of Americana Outdoors. Americana Outdoors is a Careco TV production.
I got my power pole down, stuck in the mud in the bottom of the lake, sitting so still in the wind and the waves. Could even be a hurricane. I got my power pole down.
You know, when I look at the tournaments I've won, probably 4 or 5 of the boats that I've won have been on a tube. But I've completely gotten away from flipping a tube because nobody made one soft enough.
Big Bite has come with this new tour series of baits. The thing that's probably the most unique is when you look at that bait, the salt just rolls out of it. And to me, that is the reason a fish bites a tube and hangs on to it. This isn't one of those let's go out and catch some smallmouth tube. This is a let's get it done tube.
For precise prescription eyewear, Wiley X knows there's no room for error. We meticulously craft our own prescription lenses to fit our high-wrap frames. And our ANSI safety-rated lenses are tested to uncompromising standards. Nothing but precise. Because precision is everything.
We demand a lot from the products that we use on our adventures around the world. When it comes to keeping things seriously cold, we rely on Angle Coolers, who have for over 50 years kept things cold. Angle Coolers, the original high-performance cooler.